Multiple players have come forward describing hazing rituals on the Northwestern football team. 3 former Northwestern football players told the Daily about what they called a toxic environment of the program, recalling multiple racist actions and remarks from both coaching staff and players. All 3 players who played for the team in the late 2000s also corroborated some of the hazing allegations reported by the Daily on Saturday. Ramon Diaz Jr., an offensive lineman for Northwestern from 2005 to 2008, said his experience on the football team was hostile as a non-white player. I didn't feel like I could be anything other than white, Diaz told the Daily. We never felt like we could be ourselves. We had to fit in by being white or acting white or laughing at our own people. Another player who asked to remain anonymous and played through 2009 said racism on the team was often blatant. He alleged Coach Fitzgerald would ask black players and coaches to cut off longer hairstyles, including dreadlocks. This is the first time Fitzgerald's been connected directly with that.
I'm not surprised by that.
So that they were more in line with what Fitzgerald called the Wildcat way. The player said this phrase, along with the phrase good, clean American fun, was often used by coaches to reference how they wanted players to look and act. The first anonymous player said white players who had long hairstyles were not asked to alter their appearances. Those 2 phrases you would hear a lot around the program referred to the sentiment of fall in line, the player said. If you were not in line with the Wildcat way, Coach Fitz or any one of the coaches would be quick to say, yeah, check your scholarship. Fitzgerald's agent declined the Daily's request for comment. A second anonymous player, a former offensive lineman who was black, told the Daily a similar story about Fitzgerald asking a member of the coaching staff to cut off his dreadlocks. He said the racist stuff, the stuff that refers to how black players are treated, in my mind, that was a form of hazing. The second anonymous player agreed, adding racism was central in the program's culture. There was a, quote, there was a certain culture of enabling racism and other microaggressions that I had to experience that other offensive linemen that were people of color had to experience. Diaz, the former offensive lineman, is now a clinical therapist. He said the program's culture had a profound mental impact on him. He was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder after graduating from Northwestern, and said that his time on the football team was a major factor in that diagnosis. After graduating, he would have flashbacks and nightmares of things that happened in the football locker room, he said. Quote, the fact that I'm still going to a therapist and talking about these things after more than 10 years is indicative of the mental health state I was left in, Diaz said. I didn't even watch a football game again for almost 5 years after I left Northwestern. It was that negative of an experience for me that I didn't want anything to do with the sport. Diaz described several racist remarks players and coaches said to him. One teammate asked him why he didn't play soccer instead of football. He said he was also forced to shave Cinco de Mayo into his hair.
Jeez.
During a tradition where freshmen would shave messages on their heads. Both Diaz and the second anonymous player detailed an instance in which a former offensive line coach joked by asking Diaz how to clean a dirty room. The coach then made a racist joke about how Diaz's family must know how to clean houses. Both former players said. Diaz said he heard the same coach tell a black teammate to stop wearing certain hats because he, quote, wasn't in the hood anymore, unquote, before calling the way he walked a, quote, unquote, gangster walk. He also said he once heard a player tell another black teammate to show him, quote, how monkeys act, unquote. The first anonymous player said your blackness was not allowed to shine through, whether it was how you carried yourself all the way down to your hair. The second anonymous player added that he often felt like the team was segregated by race. He said the defensive side of the ball had more black players. The offensive side was often majority white. That made it difficult to be an offensive player of color. He said a lot of people ended up transferring, particularly off the offensive side of the ball, because it was a very racially segregated team. Diaz agreed the team absolutely felt segregated at times, especially on the offensive line. By the end of his time at Northwestern, Diaz said he felt completely alienated from his teammates and had felt he had to act white to fit in. Quote, the topics of most of these conversations with his therapist are around my self-worth, Diaz said, which is a very common outcome of someone who's been under psychological control, manipulation, and abuse. All 3 players confirmed the hazing tradition called the car wash existed and was part of a larger system of hazing on the team.
So the good news out of all of this is that people have felt comfortable telling their story. And in telling their story, they're corroborating some of the other stories that are out there. So that's good. It also shows you a history of things that have happened under Pat Fitzgerald's watch that are unacceptable, but not surprising.
Yeah, this is...
So hopefully these are all things that make it to the desk of the president of Northwestern or the board of trustees so they can make an even more informed
I never have
decision.
faith. I never have faith in academic boards. I really don't. It's so often they're just put together for cosmetic reasons. And despite whatever,
I don't know what the power.
I don't either.
The reason that I even mention them is that I'm not sure how the power structure works. So I want to make sure that I am covered in talking about who is going to make the decision here, because it does seem like the athletic director has been completely removed from this entire thing. That this is way above him, and if you have the president of the university remarking on this, you would think that that's the person that's going to be adjudicating it.
So I just want to make sure I get the credit right here for this story. Nicole Marcus, Alice Brown, and Cole Reynolds is the other writer.
Yep.
It's Elise or Alice Brown. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. This is exemplary work being done by these student journalists, and they're working circles around a lot of professionals right now.
It's really disappointing and upsetting and not surprising.
And these alone, I mean, every next thing is in and of itself fireable. There is no possible way that he can continue in his job.
I don't know how in the world you would present that. And it does feel like that there was a level of fear in intimidation that was going on. And I hate that there were players that felt like they couldn't be themselves inside the structure of a Pat Fitzgerald football team. That makes me really sad. I'm glad for the people who transferred. I'm sad for the people that didn't want to give up getting a Northwestern education for playing football because of this.
This is a really, really dark day for Northwestern University.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the beginning.
Well, I mean, think about what's happened in the 3 hours that we've been on the air. We went from maybe 2 people talking about this to now someone putting their name on the record and more people talking about what it was like. Imagine what will happen if he's not fired between now and tomorrow's show. That now that there are more people, there's more cover. There's more cover for other people to tell their stories and to say what happened to me wasn't right. What happened at that university wasn't right. What happened under Pat Fitzgerald as the coach wasn't right.
And there were a lot of people who were snapping into action to carry water.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait.
Look, I'm not going to share some of the stories that I know from being a kid, but I know that I've shared them with you, and makes sense, doesn't it?
Yep. There is nothing here that, as they say, doesn't track.
Yep.
On brand.
Very much so.
It is a dark day for a proud university. The shining light of this university is the Medill School of Journalism today. And the one thing when they wrap in family and purple pride and everything that they do, there is a point of purple pride today. And it is every professor at the Medill School, when you talk about a Wildcat way, they're showing it. Not the damn football team. You want to talk about your Wildcat way?
The entire team.
You want to talk about family? You want to talk about culture? You know who's showing it? The student journalists. That program, those professors, coaches, those coaches.
That's why.
There's your purple pride today. You want to stand behind your university? There you go. You want to talk about people charging out to the front and showing you what a college is? It's not about kicking a pigskin around and running into people and running out of the locker room. It's about telling truth to power. It's about having the guts and the brains to do the work for
and the support.
And the support, and to do it for the right reasons, to protect the people who need protecting. Not about to be fake tough and pretend tough because you're big and strong. You want to know who's big and strong? These students who are putting their names on this work and are being threatened for it. You want to talk about school pride and all of that, and you want to have a big rally, and you want $800 million to beef up your stadium for your bread and your circuses. How about the real stuff? It's being done by the Medill students and the Medill professors and their teaching assistants. And everybody there does have an actual real culture doing real things. There's your purple damn pride. The rest of it sucks.
I don't really have a lot to add to that. Other than, like, when you look at this from the perspective, like, that whole the entire team thing, like, made me really mad, because 10 years from now there'll be people, or maybe because this thing is going to happen quickly, we'll have folks that'll be like, you know what, I was uncomfortable, I didn't feel like I could be myself, which is why the concept of the entire team wrote that letter backing Fitz and the coaches. I'm sure there are more than one person that is uncomfortable with a lot of things and ways that things have gone up there from Northwestern. And I hope that whatever justice there is, that it be done. That's what I want.